I am curious, and maybe this would take. We probably won't get to talk to you next week. So, how would you assess Jaden's season? Is it hard to assess it given the stops and starts for him?
It is, yeah. I think incomplete. Just how it went. It's an unfortunate part of our game. Those injuries occurred, but his talent level, his appreciation for the game, work ethic, study habits, all those things were there, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get to show that on the field and continue to progress on the field, but he's a tremendous talent, tremendous person, player, so I know he'll learn from this and be better moving forward.
Moving forward, what would you want him to work on, and what can you take from what you saw to get better at X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The injuries just – they happen. So I don't know if there's a way to be like, hey, you got to play a certain style or do this or do that. The last year he played in all 19 games. And so I think it's just more of, continuing to work at your craft and continue to be the leader you want to be. And all those things are going to take him to the next level and become the player and leader he wants to be. I don't think there's anything specific that I'm going to try and direct him, like techniques or fundamentals to playing the position. More so just if you go through the tough times and the tough games and the tough seasons, hey, continue to learn from that. And those are usually when you learn the most. So what did we learn and how can we improve from here?
Kliff, with Jaden is a young quarterback now that he's had success, but he's also seen the counters that they're going to. How does processing improve for young veterans as they continue to develop and grow as players? Yeah,
I think just the more you see, there's so many defensive schemes now. People are doing so much more than they used to in the past. I think the more reps on task you can get full speed, even at practice from your own defense, it just makes you better and better, and the game slows down. I've seen that with Marcus. Just watching his style of play and the way he talks through plays and defenses and schemes and things like that. He's just seen so much. Josh now too. They've seen so much when you talk to him. There's really nothing that they can throw at him that they haven't seen on some level, and I think that'll come with Jaden as well. But just time on task, as many reps as he can get, and continue to just work his tail off to be the best player he can be.
Is it important, because there'll be additions obviously to the receiver room, to the tight end room as the offseason goes, but is it important for Jaden to get with the guys that are going to be here going forward in a maybe non-official way during the offseason to kind of go over some things, just go through some reps, go through some film?
Yeah, I think that's big. I think you look at some of the all-time greats, like Brady would have those guys come up to Montana and run routes with their helmets on, and Pat has those guys down to Dallas with the Chiefs. So I think anytime you get that rapport, more time on task with those guys, the better off that they tend to play.
How much do you think not having the full offense together in the offseason, be it minicamp, training camp, whatever, for various reasons, how much do you think that had a ripple effect on the season?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. There's no doubt. I think the more you can play with, your top guys day in, day out, get the reps, I think that's a way to, reach the success you want. I think it's hard when you're not booking those reps together, getting on the same page. Hey, I would have done this here, done that there, the communication, all those things. I think it's hard to really maximize who you want to be as an offense.
Since we won't get a chance to talk to you beyond this before the offseason, how open are you to becoming a head coach again, and would you be open to teams pursuing you?
Yeah, we're going to kind of cross that bridge, when and if we get there, but the focus right now is still just trying to beat Philly, and I'm really excited to work with Josh one more time. It's been really fun to see an older guy like that, the excitement he has to be able to start these games. Most of the games he's coming in his career, he hadn't had a week of preparation. So it's just kind of been thrown in there and here you go get him. So this has been cool to see his preparation and try to see if we can get him out there and play at a high level again.
Kliff, obviously we've discussed all along, but the injuries just, crushed momentum. But when you look back at choices that you made along the way, maybe whether play calling or how you viewed personnel, whatever, is there anything you look back on and think, okay, maybe we missed the mark on something or something you could change if you could kind of do it again?
Yeah, I think when you go through these seasons, it's always best to start with yourself, point at yourself and then figure out what you could do better and then collectively what we could do better. But there's a ton of different decisions. I wish we would have made and I would have made, and more just like individual play calls than anything. Our style of play was a bit different, like I said, trying to slow the games down, limit possessions, do things of that nature. But yeah, there are a ton of things I wish I would have done better as far as scheme and maximizing players and things of that nature. But that's, an off-season kind of project when we do our self-scout, self-evaluations.
Sort of to that point, like you've had a lot of success with the system you run going back to college. You are also the guy who runs it more, the no huddle, hurry up, than everybody by a fair margin. What gives you the confidence that in this time of the league with this quarterback, et cetera, that this is the right way to go, kind of the way you've been going?
Yeah, I've seen it done at a high level, whether it's Arizona or here, at a very high level and won games and had a lot of yards, a lot of success in that regard. So I think I'm pretty confident, in that style of play when the pieces are there that you can play at a really high level and it's a very challenging offense to stop.
Good afternoon, Coach. In your experience, taking a player from prospect, what you see on tape, the scouting reports, all that stuff, to production on the NFL field, kind of what's the biggest hurdle to getting to that point?
That's a very thoughtful question. I think it is making them as comfortable as they can be early, and it's going to be some tough moments, there's no doubt, but however you can create a comfort level for them in their play that allows them to cut it loose and play as freely as possible early. I think that's the key there. I think the paralysis by overanalysis is what gets to a lot of young players. And so, hey, if we got to simplify it here, only run a certain number of schemes, only run a certain number of reads, different things like that. I think that you start at that point and then, feed them more as they go. But to me, it's like simplify first, let them play, use their natural abilities, build some confidence, and then we can start adding on concepts or schemes of that nature.
We asked you a lot about Bill this year. I think he just took home his 4th Rookie of the Week award. We know his path, 7th rounder, things like that. What's in your opinion, his ceiling? How good can he be?
Yeah, I just think it remains to be seen. I mean, he's a guy who hasn't played a lot of football in the last few years, but he loves to play. When he touches the ball, good things happen. He has some real natural ability of finding the soft spot, balance, plays with a downhill lean, a lot of things he just does naturally. And I think as he learns how to play away from the football more, the pass pro stuff, the pass game, I think he'll just become better and better. But really excited to see where that goes. Like some of the plays he's made as a guy who's just kind of figuring it out has been really impressive.
David has had a couple weeks now kind of stepping in for Tavita, and obviously that's going to be kind of one of the decisions for next season. What have you seen from him as he's kind of elevated into that role, and what do you think are his biggest strengths, I guess, as a coach?
Yeah, he's very bright. There's no doubt. He's been around some great offensive minds, in Detroit with Ben. Learned a lot there. Was in Minnesota with KOC. So I think his biggest strengths are he sees it from the lens of the player, and yet he can kind of separate and still be the coach. And he's really demanding, too. I think he's a guy who maximized who he was as a player, knew he had to get every ounce out of every throw and rep, and didn't get as many reps as he probably would have liked. And so you feel that in his coaching when he's coaching these guys and when they're practicing and playing. Like, he's not going to let them off the hook. If it's a lazy rep, hey, do it again. We need a better one than that. And I think that's really been good for that room. Just watching him work with those guys, they definitely appreciate and respect kind of his honesty and that he's been through it on that level.
Kliff, I know you said a few times, it's kind of been difficult to evaluate this season because of all the injuries. With that being said, obviously, once you get into OTAs, training camp, you're going to be focusing on things from the season that you want to improve on. How do you go through that process with that in mind? Do you kind of just start with a clean slate? Are there still things that you can kind of key in on? Like, how do you go through that process?
Yeah, we'll have a whole process of kind of self-scout, self-eval. What did we do good? What did we not do good? What do we want to take out? What do we want to add? And go from there. But, yeah, we just didn't get it done on any level really offensively. Our job is to score more points than them, and we did not do that no matter how we were trying to play. And so I think it's just looking at, hey, how do we get back on track and kind of maximize who we are, whoever's in here next year, who are we, and how do we, maximize the pieces we have.
Take a few more. Can we go back to training camp with Terry? At the time, you talked about them getting more reps. Forget whatever the reason is, missing that time. How much did that impact early in the year, the timing between Jaden and Terry, and what does it? more? Get out there together? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, unfortunately, they didn't have much time on task together. I think it was second game, Jaden went out, and then Terry was out soon thereafter. But yeah, just they definitely had great rapport the year before, and it's just the more time on task together, I don't think it'll take much. They're two great players that, are going to elevate anybody they have around them, and so I think they'll elevate each other like they did the year previous and continue to work well.
And then to Ben's point about the style of offense, you were doing more under center lately. Is that something for Jaden? Is that a big deal to help him maybe grow as a quarterback? Is that something you want to incorporate more with him? Does that get a little bit overstated?
Yeah, I have a different philosophy. I mean, we've been more with Josh, obviously, and Marcus. There's more of a comfort level, but I'm not of that where you have to be under a certain amount of times. I just have never bought into that.
Injuries and some guys that didn't return from last year. You guys didn't have the same personnel receiver. Maybe there's a lack of speed, but the game play. How much of that impacts what you wanted to do this year and how the offense is?
Yeah, we were just fortunate last year to keep that group, whether it was Diami, OZ, Noah, Terry, Zach, healthy for most of the year. Austin Eckler played a big piece with his quickness. And so I think this was just one of those years we weren't able to keep guys consistently out there that I think could have helped. And that's part of this game, and everybody deals with it. And we got to learn next time that it happens, we got to be able to handle it better. Yeah, I mean, every year you're trying to upgrade and improve your roster and find pieces that fit you. But I don't think that was a key issue this year. I just think we all needed to do better. Yeah, a little bit of both. I'm big on time on task. So if there's reps the previous week that we didn't get to that coincide schematically with what we're playing, I like to carry those over. And then, I think we're pretty specific to, hey, this defense is how we're going to attack it. And then always lean on concepts that quarterbacks like. Like I like to just dress up things that I know are kind of a staple to them and what they really lean on. Make it present different of the defense, but same read, same type feel for them.
I know you mentioned there are things that you would want to do differently, but are there ways that this season challenged you as a coordinator? You just working with a couple receivers and quarterback.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think, the toughest seasons I've had are the ones I've learned the most and have been able to grow the most. And so that's kind of how, next week we'll look at it and approach it. But I think, being able to run the football like we've been able to and running it basically more than anybody in the league this year is unique to me and new, and that's the style that we needed to play. And so I think there's definitely positives you can gain from it. It's just you got to do better when it comes to winning and losing.
Was that frustrating, just going from the 5 last year to what you guys are dealing with this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's always frustrating when you lose. There's no doubt. I mean, we're on this profession to win, and when you feel capable of being better and don't hit that mark, it's definitely frustrating. But like I said, you got to learn from it and figure out how you can do better. Yeah, I think we showed a lot of growth in that room, and Chris did individually. Him next to LT was really a nice tandem for us, and I'd love to have both those guys back. But I think Chris just has to continue to be consistent in his play style. Like when he's on, he can move anybody, and just has to week in, week out really focus on that. Thank you all. Go Red Raiders.